In this video, we will talk about writing equations in slope-intercept form. Now, there are two components to discuss about this, of course. We have the slope and we have the intercept. So a slope, another word for that is rate of change or term, which we talked about in previous lessons. And it discusses how the line moves. Notice that M there for moves. The other piece that we have is the Y-intercept, often just shortened to the intercept. It is where the line crosses the Y-axis. It is also where the line begins. But most of the time what we think about is beginning a line, okay? To be clear, there are four kinds of slope. We have positive. That moves in an upward direction from left to right. We have negative, which of course is the opposite. It's how it moves down from left to right. And we have zero, naturally, which is just a horizontal line. And finally, we have undefined. And that is when the line is vertical, 100% up and down. We will talk more about that when we get to the relations and functions unit, but as long as we know the four types of slopes, that should be sufficient for now. Now, slope-intercept form, and this is extremely, extremely important and you should know, is in the form y equals m times x plus b. M, how it moves, is our slope. B, where it begins, is our y-intercept. So looking at the equation I wrote above, we have y equals 3/2 x minus 4. So I want to know my slope, or my m value, and I want to know my y-intercept, or my b value. So looking at my equation, y equals mx plus b, I have y equals 3/2x minus 4. Notice how m is directly against the x. That's because that represents the slope, 3/2. And then we have b is being added, so to speak. So that means if it's being added and I see a negative with it, which I do in this case, that this intercept itself is a negative intercept. So always be sure to check the number, check the sign right in front of the final number in slope-intercept form to make sure that you are dealing with the correct sign, because there is a very big difference between positive and negative 4 on a graph. Another way we might see these is by looking at a graph that is already plotted. Okay, not just the equation, but the graph itself. So the first thing I'm going to check for, the first thing I need is a slope and an intercept. I'm going to always start with my y-intercept because I am going to look for the quote-unquote beginning here. Now, I mentioned in the previous directions that we have the y-intercept is located on the y-axis. So I'm just going to look down the y-axis and see where this line crosses over. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You notice this is marked 5 as well. So that helps me just confirm that this is indeed 4 units up from 0. Okay? So that's my y-intercept, where it crosses the y-axis. Slope can be a little more tricky. When I look at this actual equation, I'm going to always start with the left. I do that because we read left to right, and that will also help me with positive versus negative slopes. So everyone see that we're moving down and over and down and over. And that down part is very important. It tells me I have a negative part to my slope. Now I'm going to count how many times do I go down, because remember, slope is rise over run. Okay? So if we're moving in a downward direction, I have a negative. I move down 2. And then right 1. And that cannot be simplified much more than just simply writing negative 2. But if you would like to write negative 2/1, that is perfectly fine. Now, I have to write an equation with those two pieces of information. Remember the equation format. Pause your video, say it out loud. Okay. Okay, we'll go back. We have y equals m times x plus b. Once you know what the slope and the intercept are, you're simply going to put them back into there. So I'm going to do exactly that. Y and x are going to stay what they are at all times. The slope is -2, so I'm going to rewrite that in the m spot. And the y-intercept is +4, so I'm going to rewrite that in the positives, or in the b spot. And that is my final answer in slope-intercept form. One last quick example, we're going to use a table as well. So first thing I'm going to check for is my slope and my y-intercept, just like we did in the last one. My y-intercept in this one is going to be found, just to be very clear, y-intercept is where x is equal to 0. We always have a 0 when we are dealing with our y-intercept. So x is equal to 0, y is a number. Or in other words, we have 0, comma, b. So to find my y-intercept in this table here, I'm looking for where x is 0. And if you look closely, b is going to be 3 because x is equal to 0 while b is equal to 3. As I look at how these all change though, 3 to 11, I get +8. 11 to 19, +8. Remember, our y value change goes on top, so that's an 8 on top. And on the bottom I have +2, so I'm going to put +2 here. And I'm going to simplify this to 4/1 or simply 4. Final step, I'm going to rewrite the equation. Y equals question mark x plus question mark. Now to fill in these question marks, I'm going to look at what I have up here. I have a slope, an m, of 4. Let's get rid of that question mark there. And then we have our y-intercept, which is 3. Not erasing, but I can delete that by writing there. And there is my final simplification. Last one is 2 points. Now there will sometimes be 2 points that don't have your y-intercept shown. But for this lesson, we're going to stick with ones that have that y-intercept shown, meaning that x is 0 in the problem. So I have m equals and b equals. Now remember, to find the slope of a table or a pair of points is to create a table. So I have 0, 6, and I have 7, -3. Now to get from 6 to -3, I'm actually moving downward in a 9 whole units. And I'm moving upwards 7 in this problem. So my slope is actually a negative number, -9/7. And I'm going to keep that in fraction form. And then my y-intercept is going to be whatever x is, or sorry, y is when x is 0. In this case, it's 6. So I'm going to rewrite my equation. Y equals blank x plus blank, right? So what is my m? Well, m is -9 over +7. And my y-intercept, or b, is +6. And that is my final answer.